Today, we are taking you all around the fairy tale city of Ljubljana, the capital of Slovenia. Think castles, dragons, poetry, tree-lined canals, parks with friendly squirrels, plus a whole lot more. You will hear all about the fascinating history and all the top things to see in Ljubljana, as well as where the locals hang out for drinks and meals, and the famous fresh food and flower markets, as well as the really popular street food markets that are held every week. We take you on a fascinating walking tour and share why, out of the population of just over 200,000 people, 70,000 of those are young people who get half price food and drinks all over the city. No wonder it's so vibrant. You will come with us through vineyards in the city as we tell you all about the local wine and, of course, the cheapest place to buy a drink that we found in Ljubljana. It is a fascinating city of young and old, art and music, nature and architecture. If you want to see all the pictures from this episode, then click on the link to episode 104 in the podcast description on the player you are listening on now. Hope you enjoy episode 104, all about Ljubljana. Hello, Lyle. How are you today?
Ciao, Leonita.
So today, as I said in the intro, we are in the capital of Slovenia. Or Slovenia, we say. They say Slovenia. It took me a few days to get it right, Ljubljana.
Correct.
Right? And we were blown away by this little place. It's, as I said, it's the capital. It's not a very big place, Slovenia at all, let alone the capital. You don't feel like you're in a capital city. You feel like you're in a beautiful, quaint fairy tale village. But first, let's talk about how you can get to Ljubljana. Yeah?
Yeah, so
It's a bit of a transport hub, really, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Ljubljana Airport is located 23 kilometres north of the city. It is well connected with major European airports, Zurich, Frankfurt, Munich, Vienna, Rome and Paris. Easily reachable by direct train from Austria, Vienna, Germany, Munich, Switzerland, and Croatia, Hungary, and Serbia. We caught the bus. We caught the bus from Budapest to Ljubljana. It took us about 6 hours. Yeah. Well, it was pleasant enough.
Well, we stopped one time for about a half-hour break, which was good, and you have something to eat, go to the toilet, and then we had to go across the border, which didn't take long, but we had to show a passport going across the border.
Sure, and when you say show the passport, you just glanced at it. You could have been anybody.
And the scenery was beautiful.
That's the thing that was the most significant thing for me was the green. It is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. So, and it was called Flixbus, so it was air conditioned. They had free Wi-Fi. We had seats up the front. It was very comfortable indeed.
Yeah. Now Slovenia's population is 2,119,000, and Ljubljana's population is 289,746.
And 70,000 of those are uni students, apparently. So yep. We'll tell you why that is in a little while. Go on.
Yeah. So it's, as you say, it's pretty much a transport hub. Now
the train station's basically 2 blocks from the main area of town in Ljubljana.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we hopped off and I Google mapped where we had to go. And it was like I said, 600 metres. I don't think it was even that far. And we walked, I think, 3 blocks to our hotel called City Hotel.
Yeah, the City Hotel is in the best location I think you could find.
It's basically on the edge of the old town.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're getting a day trip or you need a taxi or anything like that, they can pull up out the front. But once you go into the old town, there's no vehicles in there.
Yeah, the room was magnificent, to be honest.
We had a balcony.
Yeah, Leanne was over the moon. There was a balcony there. And
because I also had a robe and slippers, so I could go make a cup of tea and go and sit outside on the balcony. It was a bit cooler and had my robe on. And what was our view?
It was the castle, Ljubljana Castle. Yeah. And actually, when we booked in, the lady on the desk said, "Oh, you've got the best room in the house with the best view." And I thought, there's another lady that's been to the Leanne School of Reception. But to be frank, it probably was the best room in the place.
And the other thing about it was the breakfast. Once again, another beautiful buffet breakfast, so I could stuff my pockets full of food when we left.
Yeah,
And
I mean, you could. They say it's breakfast, but it's almost like you could have dinner there.
it was
the
nice.
same buffet layout. So
They had a bar there as well, and we only discovered on about day 3 that their wine was cheaper than just about anywhere else we'd been as well.
yeah, well, one of the things we found the longer we were there was the wine can be quite expensive, and part of the reason for that being quite expensive is
they charge per 100 mil.
Yeah, they charge per same as in Hungary or in Budapest. Which was it is what it is, but
not all of them are that expensive. This was only €2 for 100 mil, so €4 for 200 is a reasonable price for a glass of wine.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about. We found a cheap one. We'll tell them about in a little while. But yeah, so where we looked out as we're saying over the castle. You could see the part of the main church in town, St. Nicholas, was it?
Yep.
And you just knew you were in a great spot because we were,
highly recommend the City Hotel in Ljubljana.
Ljubljana, see. So we arrived early, like lunchtime-ish, and we got to check in straight away, which was a bonus as well. And then we headed off, didn't we?
Yeah, well, I think before we sort of get into that, can I have my history?
Yes. I'm sure everyone's waiting, and
portion
I'm sure
of
they're all
the
saying,
podcast.
Please let Love give his history and geography.
Okay, here we go. The original name was Carniola.
Fine, yeah.
More than 5,000 years ago in early Iron Age or Hallstatt period from 8,000 to 4,000 century BC. Present-day Slovenia was inhabited by various tribes that used iron to make weapons and tools. The tribal society was stratified into rule by military aristocracy. It wasn't a monarchy; it was ruled by the army or the warlords, and that's how. Now, after Austro-Hungary was conquered in World War II, Slovenia announced its independence. It united formally with Montenegro, Serbia, Croatia on the December 4, 1918 to form the new nation called the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats and Slovenes. The name was subsequently changed to Yugoslavia in 1929. Slovenia was the only present-day European nation that was trisected and completely annexed into both Nazi Germany and fascist Italy during World War II. Slovenia. I kept on getting that wrong. I don't know why. Slovenia is a young country by global standards, having been independent since 1991. So, yeah, it's...
we're going to talk about a walking tour that we did, and the guide was Tina. But one of the things she said was she moved away. She said abroad. So basically she crossed a couple of borders and she lived away for about 15 years. And she said she could never believe that her country would be like not individual. What's the word I'm looking for? Like
independent.
Independent, yeah. And she just thought that was something that was like going to Mars. It was just unattainable. So when it happened, like they couldn't believe it. So, yeah. And the Slovenians, they absolutely love their country. Not like they're not sort of raising the flag and stuff. What they just love the variety of they say they've got everything. They've got mountains, they've got snow, they've got lakes, they've got forests. They've got beaches.
That beach is about 47.
I know, but they love it.
40. That was one of the things that made me laugh a little bit. It's because everybody mentioned the fact that they have a beach and it's on the Adriatic Sea, but it's only 47 kilometres long.
Yeah, we think Slovenia is one of the most beautiful countries we've been to. Like we always rave about New Zealand and still do, but the stuff we saw in Slovenia, like the landscape, is stunning, and I can see why they love it so much.
Yeah, there'd be a toss of a coin between New Zealand and Slovenia.
So have you finished with your history?
Well, I thought we'd then move on to Ljubljana Castle because that was the first day. We headed off towards there.
We did, and it's pretty easy to find because it's the most dominant place on the horizon. And we walked went around the streets to get there, and we found the markets first. Remember,
Yeah.
and they have markets, the fresh markets there every day. So it's fresh food, fresh fruit and vegetables, and there's some clothing and that sort of stuff, and
Don't forget the fresh flowers.
the beautiful flowers. That's right. And the biggest market though is on Saturday, and that's where all the locals gather, and they go there and they buy their fresh produce as well. But we bought, I got photos. You get, once again, like as I say in every podcast, go and either have a look at Beach Travel Wine on Instagram and go up to the story highlights and click on Slovenia, and you'll see all the stuff we're talking about, including the views of the castle and the markets and everything else. It's a couple of minutes of videos there. Or on the player you're listening on now, click on the link to episode 104, and all the pictures that we're talking about of all the places will be there, and you can just go and have a look at that. So we bought blueberries about the size of apricots, and they were divine.
Yeah, I said to Len, these can't be blueberries. They don't taste anything like the frozen ones we buy at home. They were beautiful, yeah.
And then we found the funicular. I knew you could walk up, but I thought it would be really steep. But down at the bottom of funicular was this funny little kangaroo.
Statue. Statue water fountain. So we actually asked Tina, the lady that did the walking tour, and she had no idea why it was there.
Australia must have given it to us for something. So up the funicular we went. We bought a return ticket, which, as you'll find out in a minute, we didn't need. And, we went up to the top of Ljubljana Castle. Now, Ljubljana Castle is a mixture of, they've tried to keep some of the old infrastructure, and they've built some new infrastructure around that. It's not one of those old castles where you're walking in and seeing, how it was originally. There's a few places like that. Like, you can go up on the little wall, and the views down to the city are amazing. There's the big tower that you can go up as well, and there's a prison that's still in the original condition.
Yeah,
they've got the cells, and all these places also have quite a lot of information, written information, and it's in English as well, so you can read all about it. You can do there's a couple of different audio tours that you can do as well, and I'd highly recommend doing that. Otherwise, you're just wandering around looking at old stuff. There's a chapel. What was the name of that chapel? Do you remember?
That was the Chapel of St. George.
That was quite a pretty little chapel there, and I imagine it's a beautiful venue. They would do weddings in there because there's a big sort of courtyard in the middle that they hold events in quite regularly.
Yeah, well, Leanne, as we discussed, we've been to a few castles. And we found that Ljubljana Castle was probably less like any other castle, because I think what they've done is they've changed it into more of an event centre.
Well, there's a few restaurants there. There's a cafe as well. There's a wine tasting bar, and they're all sort of around the courtyard area as well. And there's a lovely little tourist shop there.
And I think that's probably why they have the video presentation room called
Virtual Castle.
Virtual Castle. Yeah. So I think we never actually got into there. I can't remember why we didn't, but I think to make up for what they've done to make it into an event centre, I think they've designed this virtual castle to display what it used to be like.
But it's lovely. You can go up there, look at the views, you can learn about the history. There's a museum up there with the Slovenian history that you can walk around, see artefacts, see videos, see photos, and they've got some stuff on display there as well, some old clothes and that sort of thing. We went into the museum.
Yeah, and on a Friday night, a variety of jazz-related rhythm and
blues.
Yeah, basically that's every Friday night, and that's. So
it's they're making it an entertainment area.
Yeah, it's not just. It's probably less like a castle than an entertainment centre, but the views.
Inside a castle, though.
Inside a castle, but the views are magnificent, and well worth.
The effort to get up there.
Yeah, and you're going to tell them about the beautiful walk down.
I am. Well, we went up the funicular, which you go in one side, and then we could see people walking down through the original gate to the castle and big archway. And I thought there might be more to look at, so we went down that way. And it was actually, because then you could look back at some of the original walls of the castle from that entrance. but we could see a couple of different tracks, and I wasn't sure which way we should go. And there was going to be an event there, and there was some security around. So there was a track, a road to the left, a road straight ahead, and a road to the right. And I'm like, I'm not sure where to go. And so we went back in and asked someone, and they gave us, you can go this way or that way. Take that way because you go past the vineyards that the
And the
castle
Botanic
had,
Gardens.
and through the Botanic Garden. So I asked about how steep it was, and she said, "No, you'll be fine. Just take your time." So we did, and we walked through beautiful, tall trees, lush green grass, and they don't manicure it like we do at home. They let it grow and to a certain length, and then it's full of wildflowers,
Yeah.
and the birds were cheeping. We were the only ones. I think we
Were they cheeping?
Oh, we said that last time, didn't I? They were cheeky chirping. They were
Cheeky. Oh, so that's a combination.
Sure,
Oh, fair enough.
And so I think we saw another couple for a little while, and they stopped and turned around.
Yeah, we saw two people on the whole way down.
Wandering through this beautiful landscape, and all the way down there's the views as well over the city. So it was a lovely walk. I thoroughly enjoyed that. And once again, check out either the Instagram stories or the Beach Travel Wine website, episode 104. The links in the podcast player you're listening on now. And Lyle, we got to the bottom, and I was a bit disorientated because I'm like, okay, we're sort of around the other side now, but we followed the main road round. And the good thing was we arrived back into the old town at a different area that we probably would never have gone to.
So, yeah, I think it was called Grosjean Square.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So, so that was great. I highly recommend you do the Ljubljana car. You can't not. It's right there.
Yeah.
It's not like you've got to go out of your way to see it. So, and then you can say you've been to another castle, Slovenian castle.
Now, the thing that when we went back into the city, into the town village, because it's not really a city, I suppose it is, but
it's the capital city of Slovenia.
Yeah, but it's pretty small.
Yeah,
I mean, and it's really
little. It's like you're out of a fairy tale.
Yeah, exactly. But Fantasyland.
Yes, fairy tale, fantasy, same diff. Go on.
Yes, and so as you're walking back in, the thing that really stood out to me was obviously the canal.
Yes.
And there's just boat after boat after boat on the canal. We were very, very fortunate. It was a beautiful day, beautiful sunny day. But along the canal, these trees, and we finally found out what they were. Leanne's looking at me as though to say I'm stealing her thunder.
Like, here we go.
But they were called. They're the chestnut trees.
Yeah.
And
so we were there in May, so it's still spring, so the trees are flowering. And as you're saying, we found out they're not the normal chestnut trees. They're an ornamental chestnut tree.
Yeah.
And people don't eat the chestnuts on them, but animals do. They do get a nut on them, and the flowers can either be pink or white.
Yeah, and they seem to have they've planted them alternatively.
Well, and also some I found were darker pink. And once again, I've got some beautiful photos of these trees. So it's the chestnut trees on the side of the canal, and then there are the beautiful weeping willow trees. They're one of my favourite. And they sort of weep all the way down almost to the water along the canal edge. And then there's the national tree of Slovenia, which is the linden tree. Yes, and they're a big, beautiful heart shape. And they often call it, was it the heart tree? Because they think the leaves are heart shaped, and they are. It's just beautiful, beautiful. And they're all the way along the canal, and then the beautiful buildings on the side as well. They're stunning. And then you've got restaurants and cafes all the way along, like everywhere. And like a lot of places when you've got the cafes and the bars and the restaurants sort of in the main part of town, they're really touristy, and people say, oh, you go a few blocks back, you'll get ripped off. That's not true in Ljubljana. In Ljubljana, that's where the locals meet as well. It's not big enough, I guess, to have places everywhere, but you will be sitting there, and you could be sitting next to another tourist, or you could be sitting to someone who's a local who lives in Slovenia. Yeah.
It's actually extraordinary that, because Lan and I, we sat and people watched a couple of times, and the amount of young families, the amount of young people, teenagers, and some really well dressed locals. Yeah, again, pretty sophisticated town, I would say.
It was a lot busier than what I thought, but I think it looks busy because it's small, but not busy as in you're pushing through crowds. Just it seemed like every restaurant, every bar was full of people. It had like it was a really great vibrant sort of city. You felt like you were part of the town. You felt like you were part of the city, and there was just so much happening.
Sure, sure. And where we went, did they not speak English?
No. Yeah.
Everybody spoke English, so it was really easy to communicate. Very friendly.
Yeah, we quite often every day we went and sat somewhere on the canal, and just to watch the world go by. It was fabulous. I was watching. I was looking at people's shoes. I'm fascinated with what shoes people wear, which is weird. I know, but anyway.
And tracksuit pants. And what we couldn't work out because we from in Australia, people don't really wear tracksuit pants out. Whereas in
the tracky dacks,
the tracksuit.
Well, it's become trendy again. The way they're wearing them, some of them got them pulled up halfway up their calf muscle, and they've got the designer shoes on, and they've got matching tops. So they'll be in Australia. You wait, next winter they'll have the designer.
But seriously, it looked good. Yeah,
it did look good. So you can't. Once again, everywhere you go in Ljubljana, you're going to come across the canal, and there's several different bridges to go across, which you're going to talk about in a minute. One of the other places we enjoyed too was we found the big green park area, Tivoli Park.
Tivoli Park, yeah.
Yeah. Now, there's not as much there as some of the other green areas, but it's a massive area. There's lots of pathways, and once again, we snagged the weather, we snagged the time of year because, like, we've got the big trees, we've got the wildflowers in the grass, we've got some pretty rhododendrons and roses and things all flowering, and it basically you can just walk through the park round and round and enjoy it. There are a couple of restaurants in the park, and there is an ice skating rink up the top, and there's also some tennis courts as well. I saw those, so it's a bit of
so it's 5 square kilometres.
Okay, there you go.
It is the largest green space in Ljubljana. The park was designed in 1813 by the revered French engineer Jean Blanchard. In 1880, a fish pond was constructed. This was followed by an adjacent tropical greenhouse.
Oh, we saw those. Yeah.
Yes, in 1920 and 30s, Jose Blesnik's designed Tivoli's central promenade, adjoined it with his characteristic neoclassic lampposts. The Tivoli houses the International Centre of Graphic Arts, the Museum of Modern History, and also the zoo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that fish pond is quite big and still there and still really pretty. And it was the day we were there were these geese.
Yeah, that's right.
Obviously, well, I'm assuming a mum and a dad, because they were on this little island in the middle, and there's like a group of little goslings. Is that what they're called, the babies? Cute little fluffy babies.
Above my pay grade.
Right in the middle of that little happy bird family, there was a turtle just sitting there.
Oh, yeah.
That was quite funny. And there were people having birthday parties, and they've got their hammocks up, having picnics and just enjoying. It was a beautiful sunny day. People riding their bikes around, and we actually did a live there, and we sat down under these trees, and there were squirrels everywhere.
Yeah, and obviously it was a place where people stopped to have picnics, and the squirrels were certainly not afraid to come down and say g'day.
Yeah. So if you want to see those, Beach Travel Wine on Instagram, go to the Slovenia stories, and I've got quite a couple of videos of the little squirrels jumping around us there. That was cute. So that was a nice morning out in Tivoli Park.
Yeah, it was great.
We enjoyed that, and the squirrels they're a lot smaller than I thought squirrels were. Obviously, there's different types of squirrels, so they jumped up on the table and.
They weren't shy at all. One of the things though about in Ljubljana, which really was astonishing, was the amount of bikes.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Well, it is crazy, but because I guess it's since 2007, it's been a no car zone.
Yeah,
right.
Pedestrian only. Yeah,
when you go across the bridges into the middle, And so people ride their bikes, and it's not that big and it's not that hilly unless you're going up to the castle. Then yeah, people ride bikes. But there is a law, and someone said, "Well, we don't follow it that much." But kids until they're 12-ish, they have to be with an adult who either has a bike license or a driver's license to ride. They can't ride on their own until they get their own. They pass an exam and get their own bike license, which they do in school, in what they say is equivalent to about our year 5 in primary school. So they obviously have to learn the road rules and that sort of thing, which seems like a pretty good idea.
Well, it makes sense because of I suppose the smallness of the area of the city,
Yeah.
and the amount of people that are pedestrians walking. It would make sense for the government to
Try and make it safer.
to make it as safe as possible.
Yeah,
So that's probably why they did it in the first place. So, I think they got a bit of Tina, the lady that we did the walking tour, said the mayor did cop a bit of grief when they first decided to do it. So I think he was just going through and making sure that it would work the best it possibly could.
Right. Well, seeing we're talking about Tina too,
she said.
Yeah. One of the things we did in Ljubljana, we're going to try and do in most of the cities we go to, is a walking tour of some sort. And we actually happened to come across a free one. Well, it's not exactly free. You tip them at the end.
Yeah.
But there were so many of us that they divided us into two. And they don't have microphones and stuff. You're just wandering around listening. And so Lyle did a lot of the listening on the tour, because I wander off and take some photographs. But so we met in the town square.
Yes, we did.
Now,
and that, go on, sorry.
I was just going to say, every day we walked through the town square a couple of times. There was always entertainment there. One day there was someone juggling a ball. The next there was a guy wrapped in glad wrap and chained up trying to get out.
So he was obviously, an escape artist.
And a musical act. And, so that,
And did you mention the footballer?
Yeah. Juggling the football, yeah. But so obviously they're buskers, but it's every day there was something different. Couple of times a day.
Yeah.
So that's the main square of Ljubljana.
Yeah, and what I
wouldn't call it a square, actually. It's more rounded, isn't it?
Anyway. Yeah, but I think that and they use it for buskers and also for protests.
Yeah. Gatherings, festivals, all sorts of
things. Now it's called Presseren Square, and there's a statue of Presseren, who was
he's a poet.
Yes, he is a poet.
Say that Ljubljana, they are famous for words, grammar, and poetry, and so they had 3 books back in the day. They were the first printed books in Europe, they said. I don't know how true that is, but this guy was famous for his poetry and his use of language, right?
Yeah. So Tina actually said that the fact that Ljubljana had been, I suppose, been controlled by foreign powers. They didn't have their own sovereignty, so there was no need, or there was no people, whether it be politicians or military people, that they built statues for. And this particular guy,
a Caesar or a
Ramesses II. So this guy was Franz Presseren. And he was born in 1800 and died in 1849.
So he's a big statue in the middle of the square.
Yeah,
right?
So he was a romantic Slovene poet. After his death, he became the leading name of the Slovene literacy canon. He has been described being as ubiquitous as the air in Slovene culture. His lyric poetry dealt with the love towards his homeland, the suffering of humanity, as well as his unfulfilled love towards Julia. Now, Julia was much younger than him, and there's actually
Tina said, "Can you see where what was his first name? The guy in the statue,
Franz,
where he's looking, and you follow his eyes and you go down around the corner, and there's a statue of a girl looking out the window, and so he's looking straight to her. Now he was in love with her, and his poetry is all about her, but she had no interest in him, and she married someone else. She was much younger, as you said, and so his poetry is all about love lost and beautiful Julia, etc., right?
Yeah. So, but there was a big controversy about the actual statue because
it's not
because
just him,
it's right, because it's right outside the
Franciscan church.
Franciscan church.
Yes.
There's a naked muse on top of his statue. Now, the muse is
a mythical sort of.
Yeah, it's a Greek Roman mythical. It's daughter of Zeus or something. And
there was a bit of an argument. People wanted it gone, and then the bishop said, "No, keep it because it'll remind people of what not to do or something," wasn't it?
I don't think I had it that way. I think it was the church were the one that were complaining about it, and then I suppose the
mayor?
The elite mayor and the mayor, they wanted it there because they understood what the symbolism of it was.
Well, it's still
and
there,
eventually, so it was there. Now that the one of the significant buildings, as we said, was the Franciscan church, and that's
it's like pink, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's symbolic of any Franciscan monastery, church, whatever.
And when you look at it, it looks huge, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And what they did is they built the front and the back of it to appear huge, and then when you go inside or see the side of it, it's nowhere near as big as the front. So it was more to give the impression of grandeur, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was so the Franciscan Church of the Annunciation, built on the site where two, possibly three churches stood earlier, between 1646 and 1660. The bell tower were built following in 1720. And as we said, the red and pink colours of the church is symbolic of Franciscan monastic order.
So that's where we started our walking tour.
Yeah.
So let's move on with that a bit, shall we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tina was our guide, and she was a local Slovenian lady who'd moved away, come back, and she was full of energy, full of enthusiasm, and full of great information.
She was lovely. She was really, really good.
So and where do we go next then?
Well, right on the edge of that square is the Triple Bridge.
Okay, yeah.
Now, the Triple Bridge, central of the three bridges, was opened on the 25th of September 1842, when it replaced an old medieval wooden bridge. In 1929, the side bridges were intended for pedestrians, were added to the original stone bridge according to the design by the architect Jose Plesnik.
And Plesnik's stuff is everywhere, and the locals just adore him. Yeah. And they think he's the most intelligent man in the world, and because they needed to make the bridge bigger, because the cars were going across and people were going across, and they're just like, oh, we're going to be without a bridge. And he's like, well, no, we'll just add pedestrian bridges on each side. Yeah. And he got the locals to come out and help smooth all the balustrade things on the side of them as well. There's a whole story where, the people loved him, and he used volunteer labour a lot to get stuff done.
And everywhere you look is, especially on this walking tour, well, Plesnik did this and Plesnik did that and Plesnik did this. But look, it's smaller than I thought it was going to be, but it's only going over a canal. But what Tina did say was that it turned out they felt that it was much cheaper to add the two pedestrian bridges than pull down the old one and rebuild a larger one. Yeah. So from an economic point of view, that was pretty smart.
But then, as I said, from 2007, you can't drive in there anyway, unless I think there's delivery. People can go in up until about 8 o'clock in the morning or something. So now they're basically all pedestrian bridges, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So where did we go after that?
We headed towards, I'm not sure whether it was the Dragon Bridge or the Butcher's Bridge.
I think Butcher's Bridge first, yeah.
Okay, so the Butcher's Bridge.
So basically there's lots of bridges, but the three main ones are the Triple Bridge, the Butcher's Bridge, and the Dragon Bridge. So that's the order they go in as well. So the Butcher's Bridge is quite wide, and she calls it a social floating social platform or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's saying that people gather there, and they have parties and things on the bridge, and it's as wide as it is across. Like it's almost a square, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and there's two like glass panels on either side of it, so you can look down through to the canal.
And when we were there was a guy playing music, an older guy, like probably in his 60s, and he's rollerblading around, dancing, having a lovely time, wasn't he? Remember?
Oh, he's at least, like, I would say he'd be older than me.
And there are so many. Go and check out the photos. Beach Travel Wine, episode 104. There are so many locks on this bridge. You probably can't fit any more in. It's full. Like there'd be hundreds of thousands of love locks on this.
Which is ironical because they call it the Butcher's Bridge.
Well, or Love Lock Bridge as well.
Okay.
The locals.
Okay. So, and now there's a couple of statues.
Oh, they are weird.
Yeah, they're
Go on.
You're right, Leanne. They are weird. But I think part of the fact that they call it the Love Bridge too is because one of the statues is of Adam and Eve.
But these statues are made by a Slovenian sculptor who is still in Ljubljana today.
Sure. So the Adam and Eve are shamed and banished from paradise after being induced by the serpent.
Same old Adam and Eve.
Yeah, same old. And then there's this other one, and it's
so it doesn't have a head, but it has a big neck, and then it's got a big long tail, and it's
well, it's Prometheus, which is Prometheues, is one of the Titans and a god of fire. Mm-hmm. So this is in Greek mythology.
All right. Well,
running and disemboweled in punishment for having given knowledge of the fire to mankind.
And didn't they peel his skin off or something as well? And so that
disemboweled, that's that part. So, and it's so weird, really, really weird.
It's right next to all these beautiful, engraved and symbols of love on the bridge. It's so strange.
Well, that bridge connects one side of the embankment to basically the central markets.
Yes, yeah. Which once again is not the central market. That building along the edge of the canal is built by Joseph.
Plesnik. So what they say, the Riverside Market building, sometimes referred to as Plesnik's Market, was designed by Jose Plesnik between 1931 and 1939. Now that obviously 1939 was just before the start of the Second World War, and what Tina told us that.
Well, how did he build this massive building with all these colonnades in it? Along the side of the river. He needed materials, he needed money, and he needed labour, and basically they were going into war. So,
so the materials they got from there was a huge earthquake in 1895, and that destroyed an old monastery
on the side of the markets now.
Yeah, and damaged the building. Now, what Plesnik did is he used the materials from there.
He had already got some. He had some money approved before the war, and he did buy some. And what he needed, he then got most of it from there, as you said.
Yeah, and so when they cleared that actually gave room for the actual market area. And then, as you said earlier, he was able to convince the locals, or the locals loved him so much that they volunteered their time to help build it. And
it's a stunning building. It's only one story high, but it's got columns everywhere, and it's now full of different restaurants and bars. And when you can sit out on the outdoor area, and that overlooks the central market. So it's you can't miss it. You can't miss anything really in the middle of Ljubljana, but you definitely need to go there.
So one of my favourite things which we did is, and this is in this market area, is every Friday they have Friday night they have a street food market, and it is bloody chock-a-block.
Once again, it's where all the locals go.
Yeah, and it's just crazy busy. And the thing that stood out to me is that I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, God, the restaurants must be so pissed off with this market every Friday. We then went further into we ended up buying some pad thai, and it was like €7.
I would have liked to have a bit more ground, but it was a bit overwhelming.
There was really nowhere to
sit or eat. But there were so many people too. I'm like, I want to see what they're cooking. I'm like, what is that? I don't know. But people are lining up to get food, and so we just went with what we knew.
Yeah, I think the locals would probably appreciate it more than the tourists because they know what it is, and so.
And they were selling wine as well.
Yeah, there was what
they were weighing it. That's what I thought. That's the first time I've seen someone they put the glass and poured something in, and they were weighing it on the scale. So
Crazy.
Yeah, I know, right?
But look, it was fabulous. The food, we had the pad thai, as I said, €7 or €14 for both of us. We couldn't finish it, neither Leanne and I, and it was great.
And I interrupted you for the first time in a while. You,
I don't
you
know
said
about
that you
that.
thought the restaurants would be a bit cheesed off, but they were.
Yeah, so we walked further down past the markets where all the restaurants are in the squares, and they were all chock-a-block.
It was pumping. That was a Friday night. So you just sort of got the impression that it is where everyone comes to meet. It was, the sun was shining. The trees are flowering. There's people playing music. It was just unbelievable. So if you're going to go to Ljubljana, try and go over the weekend so you get to see the food markets and the fresh food markets as well on the Saturday, which is the biggest one, because that's where they all gather. As I said, they all go there and buy their fruit and vegetables for the week and meet up the locals. So it's good if the locals are buying it, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I was totally impressed.
So we got a bit sidetracked there because we were talking about the colonnade building that we saw on the walking tour and found out about. After that, we wandered up and stood under one of the linden trees. Now, the linden trees, as I said, they're the national tree, and some of them are up to 700 years old. So that's interesting. And then we stood under one of them and looked at another bridge.
And that was a dragon bridge.
There we go.
Okay.
It was half a millisecond there of you thinking, what am I talking about?
Yeah, I'm thinking, where's she going with
No
this?
wonder we don't video this podcast.
Yeah, so, but the dragon bridge, I don't know, what did you think?
I was a little bit underwhelmed because I don't know. I built it up in my head as this big bridge with all these dragons on it, but in reality, it's a vehicle bridge, and it was just busy with cars and buses going on it over the time. The dragons themselves were gorgeous. There's 4 of those, 2 on each end of the bridge, and we got some nice photos of that. And it's a nice spot to look back down over the canal over the main part of town. So, but that's basically where the old town finishes. Tell us a bit about it, though.
Okay.
What's the significance of the dragons?
Well, there is a legend that Jason was the founder of Ljubljana, and he and his Argonaut killed a dragon. This is one of the 4 dragon statues in the bridge, according to the local legend. When a virgin crosses the bridge, the dragons will
wag
their tails. The dragon bridge was given its Art Nouveau appearance by the Dalmatian architect Hurin Zaninovic.
Okay.
Now, Jason was mythological, Greek, whatever.
It's like a blue-green colour. They're sitting on top of the pillars. They're substantial. I think it's worth looking at the pictures of it, and you do have to go and see the Dragon Bridge.
But they say that originally it's gone from a monster, like a river monster, and that's eventually
into a dragon,
and that sort of thing. So
it's interesting though, like
bit of bullshit, really.
My daughter and her then fiance were travelling together, and they went to Ljubljana, and that's why I've always wanted to go. And they've got photos of them standing under the dragons on the Dragon Bridge, and there wasn't another person or a car in sight, whereas we were dodging people and cars to try and get a decent photo, but exactly the same area that they were in. We took photos. So, and then we continued on because we went to
Congress Square.
Congress Square, yeah. No, we went to the Parliament building first, didn't we? Was that Congress where the mayor is?
No, I thought that. Either
Town Hall. We went to Town Hall.
Town Hall, yeah, and that's got a statue of the fountain. it got a fountain of the 3 rivers.
Yeah.
Look, we went in and had a look at the Town Hall.
Yeah. And the sort of the square there, and then we walked up a bit further and we got a free tasting of a blueberry liqueur.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that was delicious, and she gave us some ideas of where we could buy that there with a bit of a discount, which was nice. And then we crossed over the river again, and she showed us some other areas of restaurants and cafes where she likes to go, which is once again on the canal, but just a bit further down. And then we saw the library. Now, the library was built once again by our friend.
Jose Lesnick.
And he used, once again, some recycled materials. I've got a nice photo of this. And the windows he's made look like books. Yeah, so it's quite an interesting building. And then we went and finished our tour at Congress Square. Yes?
Well, no, we did do Congress Square.
I must have the wrong Congress Square. I'm thinking it's now a university.
Yeah,
that's where we finished up.
What about St. Nicholas?
Well, that was before, wasn't it? Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about St. Nicholas. St. Nicholas Cathedral.
Like it's this massive, beautiful, big cathedral. And she also told us, because right at the front of St. Nicholas was the little green buses and trains. Now they're free to get around the city centre, and they're by the local government, and they've got a phone number on them. You just ring them, and they come pick you up and take you wherever you want to go in the city. It's, so it's one of their initiatives to help people move around the city easily as well. So
yeah, well, I think probably, especially for older people, I think that it would be probably intimidating with all the bikes and that sort of thing. So again, probably they've looked at it and thought, well, okay, we've got a problem here. Yeah. How do we fix it? Okay, we'll just put a little green
electric
bus service in, and it was great. It looked really great, and the people at the hotel told us all about it.
And also, before you start the church, like around the church and behind the restaurants and stuff, some of the old town streets, full of beautiful shops, as well as some galleries and little museums and things as well. So it's not just the canal. There's a couple of other streets that are full of lots of little cafe. Like you can smell the coffee around the squares as well. They're really into their coffee there. But then you come across St. Nicholas's Church, yeah?
Yeah, so St. Nicholas's Cathedral.
Yep.
Now, we went in and had a look. It was only €3 to get in. Originally a Gothic church in the early 18th century, it was replaced by a Baroque building easily recognised with its green dome and twin towers located near the central markets and town halls.
Yeah, so it's that colour. The colour of the dome is the same colour as the dragons on the dragon bridges.
So
turquoisey green colour, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, the probably the most significant thing that we noticed in the church was actually the two entrance doors.
Yeah, so you don't go in the main door anymore because, which is one you're going to talk about, which it's like the history of Slovenia on the door, isn't it?
Yeah, well, in the late 20th century, 1996 actually, new bronze doors were commissioned for the cathedral's two entrances in commemoration of a visit by Pope John Paul II.
So on the front door, he's right at the top and he's sticking his head out a window, a bit like the statue of Julia down there.
Yeah, you said that. And it is, it's true.
Said that actually, yeah.
But yeah, it gives you and from the bottom up, it sort of gives you the history.
So you got the Ottomans, and then you got the Romans, and then you've got the unhappy people, and then you got the happy people, and then right up the top they've got the books, and they've got
because of the literacy. And
then right down the bottom is this little gold face because it's sort of bronze, but sometimes when you touch those statues, part of it gets like light colour.
Yeah.
And I said to Lyle, I wonder if that's the devil down the bottom, but it's actually not.
It's a sculptor, and his name is Mirsad Begic.
Okay, so
or Begic, it'd be Begic because a C is a CH.
Right. Thank you for the language lesson.
Yeah,
and once again,
but that could be total bullshit too. But anyway,
once again, I've got photos of the door and inside the church. We can't resist a good cathedral, can we? So, episode 104, beachtravelwine.com. So
then we head, as we've already mentioned, is to Congress Square. Now, Congress Square is the main square. Mm-hmm. Now, on October the 29th, 1918, independence from Austro-Hungarian rule and the establishment of the state of Slovene, Croats and Serbs was proclaimed during mass demonstrations on the square. So that's the significance of the square. And it's huge. And like
part of it's like grassed and with trees, and they hold markets there.
Yeah, sure. It's a park. Yeah, that's what it is. But down one end's the church of Ursuline, the parish church.
It's also where the Museum of Optical Illusions is. Which
really, I didn't realise that.
Yeah,
and it's also the building of the Music Academy. And I won't go through the whole lot, but the whole thing about the Music Academy, but it's basically the Ljubljana Philharmonic Orchestra.
It's had some famous
and
people.
Yeah, it's the Academy, and yeah,
they're big into their music as well.
It's
also where we finished was under a big archway with the chandelier of a grand building. I don't remember what it was previously, but now it's part of the university.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, where we finished, right?
Yeah, and as we said before, the universities in Slovenia are free.
The one in Ljubljana, yeah, I think is.
No, I think it's generally across the board.
But how many universities are in Slovenia?
I think it's only the one.
That's what I mean.
Smart ass. And as Leanne said,
the university is totally free for people living in Slovenia, and as I said before, they've got 70,000 students.
Yep.
And once again, remember we said earlier that all along the canals and the restaurants everywhere, there's lots of young people, and they're all out eating and drinking and having a lovely time. Well, they get vouchers to all the local places for 50% off. So
discount.
Not only do they get university free, they get their food and drink for half price. So it certainly adds to the atmosphere in the city centre, doesn't it?
Well, it makes you realise why it's such a young city.
Yeah. But the problem is what Tina was telling us was, unfortunately, they're getting educated and they're getting their degrees, but they don't always have the jobs that their degree qualifies them to do. So they generally have to leave. So what some people are doing now is they're getting sponsorship, and they have to stay for 10 years if a business sponsors you. So they pay all your living expenses basically, and then you work for them. So you've got a job afterwards, but you have to stay for 10 years.
Yeah. Otherwise, mum and dad have got to
pay the accommodation and the other 50% of the food and drink.
Yeah.
Or you get a job,
Yeah.
So that was we loved the walking tour because we wandered around and you see all these bits and pieces, and it all sort of fitted together quite nicely, didn't it?
Yeah.
After that.
So, do you really want me to talk about the wine now?
Yeah, well, let's do that because we are coming to the end of our podcast. So we always finish with, well, we don't always, but let's finish with that.
Okay, so in Slovenia, there are 28,000 vineyards in Slovenia.
Right.
Did I get it right that time?
Not quite, but anyway.
Anyway, so obviously a lot of family
so
vineyards.
people have their own little plots and they're called a winery, yes.
Most popular grape grown in Slovenia are white varieties, they constitute 70% of Slovenia's production. Istrian Malvasia is the first wine variety of Slovenia, Istria. It's distinguished by moderate acidity, full body, and quite aromatic bouquet, which is reminiscent of dry apricots and sage. Similar to Semillon and Sauvignon Blanc, you'll find many of the same tropical fruit notes on a Malvasian Bianca, but with one noticeable difference. Malvasians have a very distinctive perfume scent to them. Common aroma notes associated with Malvasian Bianca include peaches, apricots, almonds, tropical notes of lychee and guava, with a touch of honey in the finish. We've fell in love with the Malvasian wine. It's beautiful, and there are hints of Sauv Blanc.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's definitely different.
Yeah, we enjoyed it for sure.
Yeah, I'd say it's got fairly high acidity.
And if you generally ask for the house wine, that's generally what you get as well, isn't it?
Yeah, well, so far, yeah. So, but the price of it can vary enormously.
One of the places, if you're once again heading to Ljubljana, where we found the cheapest wine and the cheapest beer was right across from where we stayed. And we looked down over. It's called the English Pub.
Yep.
They do a pub crawl in Ljubljana, which was a bit younger for us, and so we heard them a few nights. But they're honestly there only 20 minutes, having a nice time. Didn't go on and on. But we went in there to have a look, and their wine was €1.50 for what we were paying sometimes €4 to €5, €6 for. So, and it was fine.
Yeah, and the beer and the draft beer was cheap there as well.
And we got to watch some English Premier League while we were there.
We did.
So that's right near the City Hotel. If you,
it's basically right across the road.
If you're looking to get a cheap drink. Now, anything else?
Probably as far as restaurants, there was one called Fanny Mary Pizza, and that was, I know it sounds weird, but that was the name of it. And we went there, and that was just full of university students.
So it's got to be cheap, right?
Yeah, so I think we had a pizza there. Pizza was great, but they do burgers and all that sort of thing. So it's it was fine. So if you're looking for a cheap meal in Ljubljana, I would suggest Fanny Mary. Now, Leanne keeps on.
I bet you would.
Leanne, keep it nice. Now, the other place where we also went, and we went 2 nights in a row basically because it was so nice, it's called Balhazar Restaurant. So it's Balhazar, and Leanne and I both had the roast veal, and it was beautiful. I mean, really, really nice. And I can't remember what we had the second night, but it was just as good. So they're probably my 2 recommendations for food. There was another place called Most, which was the first night we went to, and we had scallops for an entree. Got to say, they were
I had beetroot soup.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You weren't overfussed with the beetroot soup.
Well, I love the flavour, but I was hoping to be a nice, creamy, chunky beetroot soup, but it was quite light.
Yeah, whereas we had the scallops, and I think I had, I can't remember what I had for a main, but the scallops were spectacular.
So anything else, darling? I'm going to put a map eventually on the blog post. Hopefully it'll be done by the time you've listened to this, and I'm going to mark all these places that we're recommending and we've been, and some of the others that Lyle hasn't got there that I made note of when we had some coffee and that sort of stuff as well, and where you can go to the supermarket that was close and all that sort of stuff. So, and that's going to be on Beach Travel Wine episode 104, and go to the podcast player on now. In the description, there'll be a link straight to that. And if you want to see any of the pictures that we're talking about, all these things, beachtravelwine.com, episode 104, the pictures will be there as well. And we did some videos, as I said, the story highlights in Instagram. Up the top there, just click on Slovenia and you will see those. So, Lyle, favourite place to have a glass of wine in Ljubljana?
Are we talking price or are we talking...
No, just your favourite place to have a glass of wine.
I'd have to go a Balhazar restaurant because we went there 2 nights. The wine was great, and that wasn't over the top price.
Okay.
But yeah, and because just watching the people go by, it was incredible.
Okay. And mine would be, I would say, from my hotel balcony, sitting outside looking over the lights of the city and up to Ljubljana Castle.
Yeah,
and,
fair enough.
Enjoying one of those Malvasian wines that we had.
Yes.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah. You can't beat that.
Yeah. So definitely we would recommend visiting Ljubljana. A lot of people don't go to Slovenia, but you won't be disappointed because we've got a couple more podcasts coming up in Slovenia, and you think this capital was amazing, you're just going to be blown away by the other places that we've visited. So
yeah, it's going to be more in the countryside.
Yeah, and just stunning things that you just won't believe. So until next week, it's see you later from me.
Yeah, goodbye.